podcast with your host, Nsoba Comfort. Thank you once again for joining me on today's episode. This is episode 38. We are one episode away from the season finale, and I'd just like to extend a token of appreciation to everybody that has ridden with me throughout this whole season 2. I'm very, very grateful. In December, it's going to be a year since I first started my podcast, and I'm really, really grateful. I'm proud of God for helping me do this. So yeah, I've really enjoyed doing this. So anyway, without any further ado, let's go to today's episode. So today I'm going to be talking about the lessons God taught me about love and marriage, right? I know it sounds strange, and these are the lessons that God taught me about love and marriage as a single person. So throughout my life, right, it's just that I have, there's a lot. One thing I realized about God is that He's a teacher, right? And He wants His children to operate from a place of knowledge so that we will be strong and that we can do better things, right? He even says in scripture that my people perish because they lack knowledge. So I really think that I want you to know that God is able to teach you about any and everything in this life thing, concerning this life thing, whether it's a season to come or a season that you are in, or about a season that you are about to get into. So yeah, since I was, he started talking to me about my kids since I was 15, if I'm not mistaken. And throughout, if I could search my journals, there's a lot of things that God has said and taught me. So the ones that I've listed here are my highlights, let me call them that. So first lesson was love led God to give. John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son." So God taught me that whenever I proclaim love to a person, I must be able to accompany it by giving, because that's what He does. There is no declaration of love from the Father that He does not follow it up with action. And in a marriage context, when you declare your love for another, it's going to require you to give of yourself, to give of the rights to singleness or doing life by yourself. You're going to give forgiveness, you're going to give patience, you're going to give understanding, you're going to give. It's just about giving. And I've noticed that although I'm not yet married, but in my other relationships as well, I learned that whenever I say I love somebody, it needs to show in some form of way that indeed I do love this person by what I give, right? I can show by what I say, I can show by what I think or my perception towards the whole relationship, but also it matters most what I do, because love led God to give, and He gave His best. So whenever we say we love somebody, we must be willing to give our best to those people. So second lesson, it's the T-junction, right? So God once gave me a vision of a T-junction, right? You see, let's put it like this. This is a T-junction. So from this point, it's my life, and from this point, it's the life of my partner, my spouse. So these people in their single season, right, they walk this journey with God. If these people individually accept the Lord as their Lord and Savior, right, and He walks this journey out with them individually, they are God. The Bible calls us in the book of Matthew that we are the light of the world. So in everybody has confessed that they are a child of God, in some way or the other, we operate as light in this world. So we each walk in a specific kind of light, right, that illuminates the path. And the more we walk with the Lord, when we individually both walk with the Lord, and that light that is himself and that becomes us because he is in the inside of us, it illuminates our path, right, towards one another at the same time and when the time comes. So it is possible that, like, and I've seen in some marriages that, you know, like for instance, one knows that this person is like meant to be their wife or their husband before the other one does, right? So it means that you have reached the point of T-junction before the other person. But eventually, like, in order for you so in order for both of you guys to reach this, the junction part where it's now one-way street, right, to a set direction, when you get to this place and when you join together, like, the only other way for a person coming from this side and a person coming from this side to get to this place and get into this road, they must be working together somehow, right? So in this place is a place of union, it's a place of commitment, and it's a place of the joining of the two to become one in order to walk this journey, right? So God was saying to me that, it's hot in Guyana, guys. God was saying to me that when we now reach this junction, right, this one-way street that has now combined the both of us, the light that we both individually carry, when we combine it, it's going to illuminate brighter than it was when it was just one light. Two is better than one, right? So the two lights now increase the bar. So in my vision, I saw two people coming together, reaching that junction, and then getting like it was like both of them were having like headlamps in their heads, right? So these headlamps were now when they got into this path together, the light was shining brighter. The illumination was more vast, right, for the both of them, because they had combined two lights together. So what I noticed in the vision was that it was now shining on the sides more clearly than they were shining on the sides when it was like both of them individually. So I saw like a very big light, like almost shining the whole path, the whole road, right? And this was God's revelation to me about that when two people come together and they allow both of their lights to shine, and because the only way that the light is going to shine brighter is when God's glory is also shining upon the both of you. It makes your light shine brighter. The Bible says in Isaiah that rise and shine, for the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. So when the glory of the Lord rises upon two people, it illuminates brighter and further. So I saw people on the sides, like somebody had been looking for something for like a long time. So finally, when these people were now walking like this route at the T-junction, this person was like, oh my gosh, I can see. And then they picked up what they had dropped and they were like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for this light. Where does this light come from? And all of a sudden, this other person was looking for, like, I don't know, like a child or a person or something. And because of the light of these two individuals that has now become one big light, they were like, oh my gosh, there you are. I've been looking for you for a long time. So I noticed a lot of people finding solutions for the problems that they had while it was still dim and dark where they are. So God was saying to me that is what I want a union to be, right? I want your light to so shine to the world that people will see your light and glorify me, right? They will see that I have finally come to their aid. And I believe that's what the family unit is there for. A family unit that has Christ as the center and is representing God. It's supposed to bring light and direction to people. Like, people should be like, oh, that's how things are done, because they're seeing two people that are honoring God do marriage in a particular way. They're like, oh my gosh, I had caps in my love, but I see that your kind of love is unconditional. Like, how do you do that? And then they'll explain that no, it's the Lord that helps us, right, to love one another in this way, to love one another beyond this fault. So that was what God was teaching me, that I want to create marriages, and I want your marriage hopefully one day to be a light to my people that is going to shine, so that more glory is going to come to the kingdom of God. And that's why I want to encourage people that are married, right? The more you love one another like Christ has loved us, right? With the more you are invested in the union that God has given the both of you, the more invested doing it with him and through him, the more glory God is going to get through whatever fruits that union is going to bear, through the light that is going to be shown in a lot of people's life because of your union, which immediately is going to have some sort of result and impact on people. Whether it's people outside, people that have interacted with the both of you, or your children, in one way or the other, somebody is going to see because of the light that is in your union. Lesson number 3. God once said to me, never look for love directly from a man. It is I who love you, and I use available vessels, right? There was a specific thing that happened when God told me this thing that set me free, right? But on a general level, right, we can sometimes get lost when we want perfection from imperfect people, right? But it's a whole different dynamic when we see that imperfect people are used by a perfect God to do what only he can do, to do something perfectly. It's the God that helps an imperfect person to do something perfectly. So when you now want and expect something from this person that is imperfect, and you disregard the God that helps him perfect the thing that he is giving you, then that this person is giving you, then you have missed the mark, right? So in this, God was teaching me that whomever God will God will never run out. This is what he told me. He's like, I will never run out of people to use to show you my love, because it is my delight to let my children know my love. But my children limit me in terms of who I can use in order to do that, right? It's like there is many available. That's why when Saul, after he was picked to be king, and when he decided to go against God and side with the people, God was like to Samuel, he was like, why are you crying? I've chosen another. Because when it comes to his mandate, God is very intentional, right? That his mandate will not fall. He might choose and shift around things, but his purpose will remain. So if God's purpose is to love us so much so that it transforms something about our lives, and if he feels like this person is no longer a willing vessel to show you love, he will choose another, right? And yeah, so he wasn't telling me this to like now bash people, to be like, you know what, I don't need you. If you don't feel like, you know what, let me, God is going to say, no, caution yourself, warn yourself. So he was saying this for me to never expect God from man without acknowledging God in man, right? So if I am going to accept any love from any man, right, I need to always have the consciousness of mind that this man is going to fall, and this man is going to fall short in one way or the other. Like men are called to love us as Christ loves the church. That is a very, very hefty command, right? So it needs God to make it happen. So we must also be gracious and understanding enough. The man cannot do it without God. And now you cannot expect that form of love from a man without expecting it first from God, right? So if God is the one that made this promise and made this decree, be like, Lord, this is what you promised, that you're going to you're going to love me, you're going to love me eternally, right? God says his love for us will never fail. So if God is loving me eternally and he has now chosen this man to show his love to me, the love that is like the love of the church and Jesus Christ, it means that I must constantly expect, Lord, help this person to love me as Christ has loved the church. And if this person falls short in any way, it doesn't mean God has fallen short. It's the person. It's the weakness of the person that has fallen short. But thank God that his strength is made perfect in our weaknesses. Can you hear me, somebody? This is actually reviving me all over again. This gave me a lot of understanding and to put my expectations on the right person. That God, you will not fail. That's why I never fear, to be quite honest. Like ever since then, even when fear comes, because the devil always proud to come to want to take away what God has given you. But God has given me so much contentment in that area to know, like, I am not worried that one day my future husband is going to wake up and not love me anymore, because I know the one that has an endless supply of love, that if ever even I am to run out in loving anybody, he's faithful enough to fill that tank again. So even if somebody falls short in my love to love me right, I can always go to God and be like, Lord, this love that I'm used to receiving from this person right now, it's doing manga business. So I want you to help him to love me the way you want me to receive your love, because ultimately we don't own love. It is God that is love, and it is God in men that helps men to love. So men as in like men and women. So Lord, I'm asking that you would fill my heart with love and fill this person with love for me, so that we can continue this life thing honoring you in one another, yeah. So number 4, like let's just 3.5 on a side note. And the thing that like put a nail onto this point for me was Hosea chapter 2 verse 16, when God said, and now you will no longer call me master, but you will call me your husband, right? And this is what God was saying to his children, that like, I don't want the relationship of master anymore. I need you to know me as your husband. And God once said to me that I am your husband, right? And I will teach your husband how to husband, when the time comes. And so that, like experiencing God as my first husband, Jesus as my bridegroom, has made my life so beautiful, because I know that at the end of the day, I'm the bride of Christ. And as the bride of Christ, I'm well taken care of. And as the bride of Christ, there are expectations of me, and there is his will that he has, set out for me as his bride. And when there is anything that I lack, I know that the covering of my bridegroom is always there for me, you know, in one way or the other. So that has secured me so much to not even, like, I don't know, want to hunger so much to get like a husband or to get married. That's why, like, I'm 29 and I'm still content that marriage hasn't yet come, because I know that, like, guys, I already have a husband, and if I were to get a husband in this world, it's going to be my heavenly husband that is going to make the marriage the covenant that I will have in this earth to be beautiful. So why will I neglect the one that is going to beautify anything that I have this world, to want to crave it? Because I know that it will never be nice without heaven. The only thing that will make marriage wonderful in this world is because of the covenant that is already exists between I and God, right? I am maybe it's this head, yes. Where am I suffering? In Hosea 2:8, in Hosea 2:18, it says, God says, and I will be faithful to you and make you mine. Like, guys, God makes me blush sometimes because of how wonderful he is. So, and I think this is how it's supposed to be, for us to understand covenant and love and relationship, to experience it first from the Father, so that we don't have worldly views on how it's supposed to be when we now get into covenant that is God ordained, right? Like, and I'm not saying it's flowers and roses, or it's without, like, even our relationship with God, I already know that it's not flowers and roses. I fall short many times, and I'm with a perfect husband. Like, God is like a perfect husband. So, and I still fall short and I still do wrong. And so, like, imagine what would happen if, like, it's just two earthly people that are still being sanctified by the Father. Of course, it's not going to be perfect, but we have perfection in the midst of us. And every day, as we gaze upon his face, we are becoming more and more and more like him, you know. And that's the goal of life, that everything in my life is going to make me become more and more like him, and it's going to prepare me to be a good bride for him when the bridegroom returns. And that's my expectation of what marriage is going to be. And being sanctified is not easy. So yeah, number 4, you need to seek God and he will add. Your future partner is not a project that you're going to check off of a list. He is a child of God that is also on their own journey, right? God dealt with me so much, because in this part, I want to see if I can read for you exactly what he said. Whoever your husband is going to be is a man who has and is walking his own journey with God. He too has gone through high and lows of life. He has dreams, he has a purpose, he has destiny to fulfill for his life. And in the life of whoever God is going to call him, he has been set aside and consecrated, which is probably hard, to be a leader of a home one day, to be a father to your children, to he too also needs somebody who's going to be his helper, a partner, and somebody to love and to respect him. He too desires someone who will see him for who he is. He isn't just a box to be ticked on a checklist. He is way more than that. And do not reduce him to what he is not, right? So this was like God just rebuking me, because sometimes we tend to, you know, when we are doing this life thing as girls, I don't know if guys have the same stages and phases sometimes, They'd be like, oh my gosh, God win, God win, God win. I see people commenting a lot. I hate it so much. On people's life stories, be like, oh, God win, am I a potato? Like, anyway, so, God was saying to me that, like, when I reduce it to be like, oh, like, God win, like, when the time comes, like, check, I found my husband, check, I found the one that I love, check, like, the lobala has been paid to my family. Like, I'm going to view it as something, I'm going to view my future husband as someone that has come into my life to just serve my needs, right? To just be everything that I have every day when I was wondering where he is, that I've wanted him to come and do in my life, and it's going to be very much one-sided. And God was warning me against that he doesn't want me to have that kind of a relationship where there is no, I'm looking forward to him serving me and my life, but I am very narrow-minded or absent-minded rather, to being of service to him. And I remember something that Sarah Jakes once said. She's like, too many people in relationships are wanting somebody to serve them, and not too many people are asking the question, how can I serve you? So imagine a relationship where two people come together and they ask the question, how can I serve you? It's going to be more profitable, because you work, you desire to outlove one another, to do things that are going to make the other person. If I'm committed to serving my husband and my husband is committed to serving me, then there is nobody between us that is less service. There will be nobody between us that is going to feel neglected. And I believe that is God's original design of how marriage is supposed to be. And he is going to help, I believe, his children, and even the ones that are married right now, I believe he is helping them to work on selflessness and compromise. And imagine if God gives you this mindset before you get married, it's going to save you from a lot of things. And not that, you won't find yourself being selfish at one point or another. You will, but you are most likely to remember the Lord and to hold on to what he had promised that this institution is going to be, and to run back to him to be like, Lord, I'm falling short of this, help me do this and this, so that more glory is going to go to you. If our goal really is to glorify God, whether we are single, whether we are married, whether we are in between, and whether we don't understand, if our main focus and our main goal is glorifying the Lord, then there is more to relationships that we will experience than we know. And I'll just assume it's point number 5. God taught me that he cannot purpose everything else and forget to purpose unions. Sometimes we have this notion in life that God has a purpose for our way we work. God has a purpose for what we do for a living. God has a purpose for, our lives in general. But we sometimes exclude the fact that God has a purpose for unions as well. God has a purpose in whom he wants to connect with you, which family he wants you to serve through marriage, and which, he has purposed whom and what and how. He can have a say on how all of those things come together when we ask of his wisdom and his knowledge, because he has gone before us and leveled mountains, meaning that if he has authored my life, he has also completed my life, and he can help me in choosing whom is going to be my spouse. He can help me in deciding how that is going to be, or I can confide in him. I can ask him how that is going to be in my life, right? And he can speak to me about it. He cannot purpose everything else and forget to purpose unions. That is unlike him. It will be very biased of him, right? And the same way in that God saw with Adam that I don't really, it's not good for you to be by yourself. Let me make Eve that is going to be suitable. It was God's idea to let him get a helper. So why all of a sudden in 2024, it's not going to be God's idea to allow you to have a helper and to allow, all of us to have some sort of help in our lives? And I'm not saying that everybody's destined for marriage. I don't know that. But whatever God has willed and purposed for your life, he has done it to the T. So it is right for us to consult him in these matters. There is something that I learned, right? Oh, yes, I was listening to this other guy called El Shakar, and he was talking about how him and his wife got married, and they decided that they want to still enjoy marriage for a couple of years or whatever, and that they will have kids maybe after 2 or 3 years down the line. And they decided on that, and then he's in prayer. God asked him about what he had decided, and God reminded him that he sets times and seasons in place, and he is the author and the finisher, and he puts everything in alignment according to season and according to time. And he reminded him that because you have decided to consecrate your life unto me, you no longer live, but Christ lives in the inside of you. And you live to surrender your life to my will and my purposes. And he's like, yes, you have your own free will. It's in this world. But have you consulted me as God on when I want you to have your son? Because I know whom your children are going to be, and the likes and the likes. So he was saying, long story short, he ended up talking about how as for me and my consecration, God is going to decide who and when I marry. God is going to decide how I treat my wife when I'm married. God is going to decide and set the rules and the standards on how my wife treats me. God is going to decide on how I parent. God is going to, the same way I want God to help me when it comes to my work, when it comes to my calling, when it comes to my destiny, when it comes to my family, outside of my wife and child or whatever. It will be the same way that God is going to be involved in me making the decisions of my life, because I don't live life and ask God to catch up. I catch up with God because God has already authored and finished everything. So it's up to us to go to him and ask him, Lord, what is the plan? What have you purposed for my life? So so he ended up on saying that, Lord, at your time, and he was like 2 months later his wife got pregnant. So and it made me realize, it's crazy how sometimes we segregate God, that when it comes to me, I'll decide, Lord, this is the kind of man that I want. He's going to be this and this and that, ha 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 ha. But we never really ask, Lord, which person is going to be suitable for the destiny that you've already set for my life? Which person is going to be, which kind of a person is going to be a best fit for me in terms of how you want, who you have ordained my children to be, and how you would want me to raise them? Which person is going to be the best fit to co-parent with me? Which person is going to be the best fit in supporting me in my work, in supporting me in my job? Which person, why can't God help us in deciding that? He can help us in everything, including what to wear, but he can't be bothered when it comes to matters that concerns our life partners, right? Yeah, so God was teaching me that, and the last thing that God taught me was that I need to confess what God confesses over me and agree with God. It's very, very important. God has shown me a lot of I have dreamt a lot of dreams, and I have received a lot of word from my time with him and in other ways. And God needs agreement with people. When two or more agree, a matter is established, right? So God needs our agreement. He can say, or like he can teach me all of these things, right? But if I don't agree, if I don't confess these lessons, that this will be my portion, Lord, I will learn from this and I will adapt to this, and I will make my life be in line with what it is that you have taught me. It's not going to serve me. I will just learn in vain, but it's not going to impact me in any way. It is the essence of agreeing with God and accepting what it is that he teaches that allows us to experience the thing that follows after what God has taught us, right? So yeah, those are the lessons that God taught me about love and about relationships and about marriage. And I hope that they served as some sort of inspiration to you as well, and that you took whatever you take and leave whatever you leave. And if you are a guy listening to this, I want to encourage you that it's not only, you can flip it, to your gender. When I'm talking about husband, you can discuss about wife. I mean, you can hear it in respect to your wife. So yeah, I hope you learned a thing or two, as did I, all over again today. For me and my sweating face. Enjoy the rest of your day, your week, your month, and your year. I love you so much. Till next time.